So I'm here today with Richard from Buckler. We're talking about Buckler, their solutions, the company, and their recently having joined the CRTA. So welcome today, Rich.
Thank you very
Uh,
much.
yeah, tell us a bit about Buckler and sort of what sets you apart from other similar companies.
Thanks very much. So, Buckler is a platform that specializes really in kind of one overall kind of theme. And what we do is we focus on enterprise platforms that have basically two problems. One is they have processes that have high regulatory risk.
Mhm.
So anything that's highly regulatory that's adding significant risk to the organization or to the individual advisor. And then the second one is where they're incredibly manual processes. So if you think of a kind of a grid, anything that's highly manual and highly regular or high regulatory risk,
Right,
that's where we want to focus
right,
because we use a lot of AI and data to essentially automate those processes to meet those regulatory requirements. So whether that's we have essentially two platforms. One focuses on cyber program management, which is matching kind of internal policies and procedures against regulatory requirements, predominantly in the US, but also in Canada. So automating that process of matching the regulations against the policies, and then running the process. That's one piece. That's called CPM.
mhm,
The other platform is what's called investment due diligence or IDD, which focuses on the process of advisors doing due diligence on their securities. So right now, under the new CIRO rules, as an advisor, I need to do due diligence on every security I own. If I have 400 securities, which is not unusual, at 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that's going to take me 10 and a half weeks a year to do due diligence. I cannot delegate it. I cannot outsource it. And right now, it's Excel spreadsheets and PDFs,
right.
which is not particularly scalable. So what we built was a platform that allows you to use AI and data to essentially get that down from 45 minutes to an hour per security to under 90 seconds. So you can do all the due diligence. You can just do it much, much, much more efficiently.
Wow. Sounds like a potential for some pretty huge productivity gains there for your clients.
Yeah, and again, advisors can't delegate it. They can't say, I'm going to get my assistant to do this or it's from a recommended list. They have to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's we haven't met an advisor yet that's particularly enthused about spending 2.5 months doing due diligence.
Yeah.
So we think we got a process that'll allow them to do that just incredibly efficiently. So
Yeah, that sounds pretty exciting.
yeah.
So, tell me a bit about how you view Canada's regulatory environment today, and are there any changes that you'd like to see to maybe ease compliance management?
Yeah, I think the fundamentally the way we look at the regulations, they're in the best interest of the end client. They're in the best interest of the business, the industry. So from a very kind of I think a kind of a focused view, investment due diligence, it should be part of an investment process, best practice anyway. Um, and I think from a regulatory point of view, we'd look to the regulators to give a bit more direction at times around, you know, what kind of content they'd want in a due diligence report, how often due diligence should be done. They've left that fairly open to the firms. But again, the way we look at it, we've spoken to some legal advice. We've got some legal advice on this, and it's basically they're saying it should be probably once a year minimum. So from a regulator's point of view, I think just some clarity around what the expectations are around different security types would be great. But I think the fundamental, an advisor needs to make sure that they're providing the best potential option for a client. I think is it's common sense
Hmm.
to do. The challenge for advisors is that they have hundreds of securities. There hasn't been a cost to owning 600 securities up until now, and now there is a significant cost. So nobody has pushed back saying this is this we shouldn't need to do this. We haven't heard that. We've done probably 160 different meetings and interviews. We've never heard, I don't think I should have to do this. It's more, how do I do this?
Hmm.
It's just a logistical challenge.
Hmm.
Um, there must be a way to get around this efficiently. We only had one advisor that said, "I'm sure my firm is going to be able to get us out of having to do this." You may want to cut that, but
Interesting.
everybody else has said, "Yeah, we." It makes how can you say that I sold Rob a mutual fund 5 years ago. I haven't checked it since. I'm sure it's fine, and no, I don't have any notes on that.
Right, right.
It
Yeah,
it doesn't it doesn't fly.
yeah.
So I think from our point of view, the regulations make sense. I think for everybody in the industry, the regulations make sense. It's just how do you actually execute it? Is
Just the practicality of it. Yeah.
it's regulatory risk and highly manual. It
Hmm.
fits perfectly.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Hey, can you tell us a bit about the technology that you folks currently use in your operations?
So we have a pretty small team. There's 11 of us building this. We have four on the development side.
Hmm.
The AI that we use is proprietary. It was actually developed about 4 years ago, and it actually runs a hedge fund in the US. It actually does trading. And what we're using it for is almost a byproduct of that um, research that's done. So we take every security, we score every security, and then we serve up all of the data for that security in a pretty consistent way for an advisor to do that due diligence. So the technology we use, it's all off the shelf commercial technology in terms of large language models, neural network capabilities. We use AWS as our backend, our servers. But it's all pretty standardized technology. We use market data. We buy market data.
Hmm.
So we don't scrape the web. So we don't have the AI hallucinating. So calculating
Right.
different things in different ways. It's trained on market data. Um, and we think it's a bit of a unique, the AI is kind of the backbone of all of this.
Hmm.
It understands the context. So I was doing a demo probably about a month ago, and if the AI doesn't know the number or cannot calculate the number, it actually says it cannot calculate it. It doesn't
Hmm.
just serve up something. And as an example, we're doing a demo a couple of weeks or 3 weeks ago, and we had Apple, and the question to the AI was, what was the quarterly revenue for Apple over the past 2 years? So it went back and calculated, and it said in Q4 2024, the revenue for Apple was $79. And then it said in brackets, I'm assuming that's $79 billion based on the
Ah,
context of Apple. And
interesting.
I'll use that in my calculation.
I see.
So it actually recognizes patterns and context um, within the data. And if it doesn't know, it doesn't tell you. And that's very different to something like ChatGPT or Gronk that'll actually give you an answer
Right.
without context.
Without
So
context or qualification. Yeah.
correct, correct.
Yeah.
It's trained to give you an answer.
Hmm.
Other things that we find is very different with the AI. If you ask ChatGPT, what are the top three mutual funds in Canada? It'll actually bring up articles suggesting the most popular funds in Canada. Um, it doesn't actually calculate the best, and it could be based, the best could be on 3-year performance, 5-year performance, risk adjusted performance, MER, define best.
Hmm.
But it'll actually ask you how, please define best.
Right. Interesting.
So the AI is the kind of the differentiator,
Mhm.
and it's pretty good.
Wow. Sounds amazing. Hey, what motivated you to join the CRTA?
I think it was the the biggest driver was really we've had a lot of conversations. I said we've had 150, 160 different meetings over the past 9 months with advisors and branch managers and compliance officers and firms and technology departments in various firms. We spent a lot of time talking to the industry, and we were having some challenges actually just connecting and networking with regulators and the compliance teams. And this just seemed like a perfect opportunity to say, okay, so that's where everyone's meeting. Let's go meet them there.
Hmm.
Because we want to get as much information, as much um, insight into that process as we can. Um, and obviously, speaking to the regulators is a big part of that.
Mhm.
Understanding kind of what their priorities and their objectives and their perspective is on the market. And then also talking to the firms and trying to create solutions for advisors. And more, as important is creating technology for compliance teams. One of the parts of the regulations from Zero is that wealth management firms need to monitor the due diligence process of every advisor in the firm.
Mhm.
You can't do that with PDF and Excel
Right.
spreadsheets.
Right.
So one of the interesting things is actually building compliance technology for those those back office users or those branch managers. Give them some technology that's using a lot of AI to actually make their jobs easier too. So we've basically got sort of two markets, advisors, and then the supervision teams.
Mhm.
And talking to the regulators and talking to those teams is obviously critical to really understanding what the regulators are trying to get to, um, and trying to build a platform that meets their requirements. Um, so that was really the driver was we need to talk to the people that are influencing this process.
Wonderful. Well, we're thrilled to have you as a new member, and we look forward to lots of fruitful interaction with you in the coming months and years.